Hey guys, hope you are all having a fantastic morning. Today we start a mini morning series which will be comprised of 3 videos released between today and Friday that will go over one of the least talked about problems that were brought about by the government, and which would eventually aid and give plenty of confidence to Wall Street into shorting many companies out of businesses. We are going to talk about how the policies that were implemented to fight off the pandemic recession that was brought about last year have instead caused a dismantling of workers, families and small businesses. Sadly, this tragic tale has mostly benefited Wall Street, and though we are not out of the hole yet, for some reason the media continues to ignore the indirect consequences of inept policies that brought financial ruin to millions of Americans. These policies were ironically supposed to do the opposite. Nothing is ever a coincidence with these things, and I want to bring light into this concerning issue. I want to thank Amanda Fisher, whose work and due diligence has inspired me to make this video. Before we start, let me quickly state that I am not a financial advisor, and that all content discussed in this channel is simply information gathered that I deem important for people to know, so that they can make informed decisions. All efforts are aimed to better understand the nature of the current market in anticipation of the greatest squeeze in financial history. Let's get started. In America, over 700,000 people have died because of the virus. Efforts to keep sick patients breathing are draining resources in Florida, and some hospitals are finding themselves competing with municipal water systems for crucial supplies of liquid oxygen. Cities have begun to ask people to help conserve water by cutting back on non-essentials like washing cars or watering lawns or pressure washing. Eviction notices grew considerably in Arizona and Texas. It is estimated that 1/3 of New York's small businesses may be gone due to all the problems that have risen because of the virus. People are going out, but not all businesses aren't fully packed as they used to before 2020. As you can see, you do not have to look far to see how unstable the economy has become in a little over a year. Take any demographic or any societal performance statistic and you will find some pretty drastic changes. As the crisis continues to unfold and reality slowly sets in that our recovery isn't going to be a quick bounce back, there is one slice of our economy that not only has outperformed every other, but has thrived so much they have continuously broken most major historical records and benchmarks. The insulation of Wall Street institutions has allowed certain companies to directly benefit off of the drastic changes that have constrained, halted, or killed so many of us. The S&P 500 is up 17% year to date. Companies like Apple doubled in market capitalization. We saw bond issuances by companies reach all-time highs at the same time. So, how is it that there is this weird gap between the fates of people and small business in contrast to Wall Street, which is making an absolute killing? The abundance of money and success performance has most certainly not been felt outside of the few that were already on top. The answers to this become incredibly evident once we examine policy making from 2 different alternating angles. One will look at the direct policy changes done during the pandemic recession, while the other is more directed at looking through decades of policy changes that allowed for Wall Street to be engorged with profits once the economy hit this particular shock. For sake of keeping this video easy to understand without compromising any of the depth needed to make some points, I am going to over all different parts of the problem in this video. Tomorrow we will talk about how Wall Street's insulation of preferred companies allowed to further grow their footprint, as they engaged in hostile tactics that destroyed a ton of competition. Friday we will talk about how policy is directed to prevent the economic boom at Wall Street from trickling down. Let's begin at the cornerstone of the current problem, which are individuals, families and small businesses. All 3 are currently on the edge of a cracking economy that is about to default in less than 2 weeks. Inflation keeps growing to the point where minimum wage workers can no longer even afford to rent places in a big city. Food insecurity is growing, especially in households with children. Small businesses seem to be closing down left and right. Public health data suggests people experiencing depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and even suicidal ideation have grown substantially. This has led to people dating less, which has impacted birth rates and the economy as of itself since dating is a major driver in money spending. Research provided by Columbia University shows that policymakers do indeed have the tools and ability to greatly counteract many of the symptoms. I will get to the great policy to cure the problem on Friday. Just keep in mind we are introducing everything today. Financial aid that was distributed greatly benefited society. Harvard University produced research directly demonstrating that the direct payments done as stimulus checks helped households in the poorest zip codes maintain necessary spending. The quick actions that took place last year as a resort to prevent a full economic crash worked. However, As many of these policies have been lifted, it has now brought a myriad of problems to workers and families, and in particular small businesses. They are ultimately being unable to survive in a world where so much has changed in so little time, and many are quickly finding themselves in the streets and closing shop. We have been talking a lot about housing during the past month, and this reality is the same for it. Housing stability is becoming more unstable for average and poor families. All in all, data shows that policy is and can be a great tool to protect both individuals and small businesses, affording them the much-needed support to brace the recession brought about by the pandemic. Many of the policies implemented have literally saved America. However, many of these policies are being lifted, and many are unprepared to deal with the hardships of the world, as some of the problems cannot be fixed by the government overnight. A small business might find itself in trouble being unable to attract enough foot traffic at its location. Competing against corporations on the e-commerce will be incredibly hard, since e-commerce giants like Amazon will ensure that the prices for their products are lower than competition in order to drive in most of the sales and eventually have their competition go bankrupt. With many of the policies being lifted, inflation and housing prices are having people evicted and being unable to afford things like food, rent, or debt. We are simply not at a point where we can really afford to let the middle and lower class go unprotected, because doing so will certainly crash the economy in the end. Now that we addressed the cornerstone, the next part is talking about the incongruencies in the problem. This is where we get to Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, Nasdaq, and the bond market. This is where we stop today, because as I said, I want to split this series equally in 3 nice and equal chunks so as to not overload you guys with too much info. I promise you guys, tomorrow's portion is where things start getting really interesting, but for now I just wanted to lay out the main players, how we were affected by the circumstances, and why we are inadequate to survive in our own, given that the government keeps ignoring the middle and lower class in order to establish good suitable policy that benefits the high class, as I will explain tomorrow and on Friday. I want to thank you all for making it to the end of the video. Hope you guys like this series, since a lot of time has been put into it. Let me know what you thought of it below. I also noticed a chunk of my Patreons leaving. Let me know if it's something I have said that you did not like. You guys are what literally carry this channel, and I would hate to keep losing you guys since I am doing these videos full time. I am more than happy to answer any concerns you may have. Aside from that, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. We are halfway through the week, so let's see where the market makers throw at us. If you want to support the channel, I have left links in the description for my Patreon if you would like to pledge a monthly support of any amount you want. I also left a PayPal and Cash App link if you want to make a one-time donation. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you later today. Good luck on the rest of your day and to the moon.